And here we are. We are live. Welcome everybody to the episode 4 of the Vabble Town Hall. Today we're going to cover over the Vab DAO. We're going to back over maybe a little bit of the history of why we're building Vabble. And we're going to get right into the DAO, how all that works, how financing works, how distribution works, how investment works. And this will be followed up by the white paper in some weeks to come. Before we get into exactly what the DAO is, how it works, and the internal mechanics of it, let's go back for a brief moment. If you're new and you're just first researching Vabble, what I want to do is give a brief background into Hollywood financing and distribution, why the Vabble ecosystem, why are we doing what we're doing, and then we'll dig right into the DAO itself. So, um, it's commonly known how Hollywood films are financed and how this content is then distributed to consumers. Filmmakers pitch their projects to investors or multi-billion dollar networks while agreeing to forfeit majority of the shareholdings, royalties, authority over all majority aspects of the production and inherently distribution. Because distribution is how money is returned back. And VCs and multi-billion dollar networks and so forth want to control distribution because they want to make sure they can maximize profit, which makes sense to some degree. But as the studio, as the writer, how much do you have to forfeit? And that's important. How much do you have to forfeit for distribution? And what we're going to do today is make an argument so that you don't have to forfeit so much to achieve the same result. With this current approach within Hollywood, so it results in the loss of control, artistic vision, and most of the revenue for the studio. It is very common for scripts to pass through dozens of internal table reads where scenes are cut, the characters are changed, even full rewrites occur without original studio director or writer having any kind of input. This has been going on for a very long time within Hollywood. You could look back to the 1950s, and you can see where it begins to increase where the corporate increases its control over the creators and the talent. So now with today and how it's progressed over the years, only really high budget blockbusters with like A-list celebrities that become driving forces for the marketing material behind the film received the funding from Hollywood-based venture capitalists. And then you have thousands and thousands of smaller studios with quality content, and they go unnoticed. So that's really what we're trying to attain. We're trying to attain an ecosystem that can support not only the high-budget blockbusters, but also to cater to the smaller studios. We want to find that balance between both. So aside from the well-known studios, writers, and directors who are continually supported by Hollywood's hell-bent idea of blockbuster only, there are thousands and thousands of studios and filmmakers around the globe seeking to escape the claws of Hollywood. Most studios who search for financing and distribution on their own terms, without giving up their creativity, their script, and everything else. Um, Generally, their materials get put on a shelf and collect dust for years upon years upon years. Um, and that's what we're trying. We're trying to, you know, take all those dust-covered scripts, the directors and writers who have been, have succumbed to the corruption within Hollywood, and bring them back, unleash their creativity. So fortunately, over the past 24 months, uh, a lot of the film industry creators and the writers and so on have been leveraging blockchain technology to finance and distribute their productions, whether it be via NFTs or token gating. Utilizing blockchain, creators can retain intellectual property, so that's IP, majority of the revenue, and are capable of building brands around their content, which increases secondaries and other revenue streams. So while there is no one design solution specifically revolutionizing this multi-billion dollar industry, Babbel's DAO is for film financing and content distribution and absolutely provides an innovative and scalable approach. We believe we have built the best solution to date within the blockchain world, the blockchain realm. Um, Albeit, it's an early sector within blockchain, but we sincerely believe that we are developing the most sustainable model. So let's take a quick overview of what that model is. What is the Vabble ecosystem? So the Vabble ecosystem provides a solution to film studios for distribution, financing, and revenue, whilst opening the search for film investments to a broader catchment of investors. So I'm talking both institutional and retail. Vabble accomplishes this through three interconnected yet independent portals. You have the consumer portal, you for distribution. You have the DAO portal for financing, and for financing and auditing, and you have the NFT portal for film-focused NFTs. Now, I'm not going to cover the NFT portal today, as that's still in development in terms of both methodology, technology, design systems, everything else. But what I will cover today is the DAO and the consumer portal. Primarily the DAO, but we will touch into the consumer portal in a second. With all these working together, these three portals create the ultimate suite of decentralized products for the film industry to bridge into blockchain technology. So let's concentrate on the consumer portal briefly. So for the past 18 months, we've been developing this peer-to-peer hybrid system, hybrid stream video on demand platform, which kind of crosses between streaming video on demand and transactional video on demand. So while today's traditional SVOD users pay a monthly subscription to access all content, Vabble's model charges a user a standard monthly fee in fiat or crypto. So we're going to have a huge fiat on ramp. We then take that fee and we rebate 60% of it back to the user. We keep 40% as revenue for Vabble, so we can expand and develop and work harder and produce more. With the other 60% that the user received back, they use that to pay for content on the SVOD, on the streaming service. And that is a strict peer-to-peer network, meaning that as a user watches a piece of content, they directly pay to the studio. They do not pay Vabble and then the studio. Vabble don't intersect in between and take a percentage of that fee paid to the studio. That is strictly peer to peer, as transactions should be on chain. And all these transactions will be on chain as well. By utilizing this model, users no longer have to overpay for libraries of content, which they do at this present moment in time. I'm sure I'm not only speaking for myself when I say that, I'm paying for Netflix, Disney, Spotify, sometimes YouTube Premium, and so many others. That amounts to approximately $100 every month. There is no fucking way that I am consuming $100 worth of content. There's no way. So I'm overspending. But with this model, it makes the subscription every month just as everyone's used to. So it's just every month it comes out of your bank or whatever way you set it up. But then you're only paying for what you consume. You're not overpaying. You're not paying that subscription and then it's dead money. You pay per film. You pay per piece of content that you watch. So as a user, you foster control over what you spend, how you spend it, and where you spend it. And that's vitally important in the customer training aspect of what blockchain means and what it means to own cryptocurrency. You foster that control over your finances. And with this model, we're actually producing in real life utility of that technology. Content is the most consumed thing on the internet. Specifically, video is the most consumed thing on the internet. This is the optimal way to introduce cryptocurrency into everybody's life on a global scale. And I firmly believe that. And I believe in it so much that I've been working on Vabble for the last 7 years, whatever it is, of my life. So it's vitally important that I deliver this message as clearly as possible. Blockchain is the solution for the financial world, and this application of blockchain is the perfect formula to deliver blockchain on a global scale, where people will actually see value from it. So that is the consumer portal. It's a streaming service with a peer-to-peer network with a hybrid subscription model. And all the money that's generated on the streaming services get returned back to the DAO, where it's distributed out to everybody that, you know, is a part of the film's process, whether it be studios, all the people involved in the studios, directors, writers, actors, whoever's receiving back-end film earnings, all the revenue that's generated by that film on the SVOD gets returned back to the DAO and distributed accordingly, fairly, as per the smart contract that was initiated when the film was distributed. So moving on from the consumer portal, let's talk about the DAO. And specifically, let's dig into what auditing, financing, and distribution will look like. So the DAO is a separate entity from the consumer-facing portal, which is run by Vabble Limited as of today. In the future, that streaming portal will become decentralized and not be an entity of Vabble LLC anymore. But for today, we believe that we need to keep that side a little bit more under control so that we can deliver it on a mass scale, strictly down to delivering it to a global audience, not just within the film, and not just within the blockchain ecosystem. So that was a separate entity from the consumer-facing portal, and it's being built to manage a majority of the film ecosystem through governance layers. So in the future, we expect the consumer portal to be to merge with the DAO, and for the consumer-facing portal, or the SVOD, to be also controlled by those governance layers. So what participants are there of the DAO? So let's make a quick list that we can reference later. You have the VAB holder, so that's just a user who holds VAB token in their Web3 wallet. You have an auditor, that is an approved address that will have the authority to audit the customer's actions, submit results, submit data from the streaming services, and approve and deny withdrawals. An auditor is a streaming service. So Vabble LLC and its SVOD becomes a customer of the DAO. And as an accepted customer of the DAO is an auditor of all the data that's produced within the SVOD is delivered back to the DAO, so it's operational. Then you have the studio. Their addresses that propose films to the DAO and has authority to edit the details of films and so on. You have the staker, which is an address that adds VAB token from the Web3 wallet into the staking pool within the DAO in exchange for rewards. And you have the investor address that invests in funds to support a film proposal by a DAO. Essentially, they invest in the film to have it produced. And then you have the film board member, which is a voted in whitelist address of an individual who's experienced in the film industry. And I'll touch on more of those later. But let's go back to the auditors. Films that are financed and distributed by the DAO will be released on auditors of the DAO. In this case, upon initial release, the Vabble SVOD platform. So Vabble LLC will initially manage the auditing process for all revenue generated by films on the SVOD platform and consumer funds held within the DAO. It will also perform audits on rewards to be distributed based on users' actions on the SVOD. So while Vabble LLC will be the initial auditor of the DAO, auditors may be voted on and changed by the DAO community. So if Vabble are not doing their job, well then the DAO has the right to revoke that access of Vabble and introduce someone else. It is also possible for an auditor to have sub-auditors. So you have the main auditor, this time it's Vabble, and you have a sub auditor that's whether it's Beam or it could be Beam, it could be Bingeable, it could be all these other Web3 streaming platforms. And as a film studio distributes via the DAO, they can select what auditors the film should be distributed to. But always, it will always be distributed to the main auditor. And then you have your choice of sub auditors to distribute to. So then look at financing. So within the DAO, there are two subset accounts. You have the investor and the studios. The investors are the controllers of the DAO's governance, stakers in inverted commas, providing liquidity to the studios who require film financing. The investors or governance bodies consist of retail consumers, institutional investors, and the film board. So, and then the film board is comprised of voted in whitelisted addresses or individuals who typically are experienced within the film industry. So any participating individual may propose to the DAO on being a film board member. And then the DAO vote on whether that person has sufficient experience and knowledge to be a film board member. Excuse me. So when it comes to the actual financing side, the studio propose their film. They get all their materials together. They propose it. They say, we're going to release in 6 months' time. Here is some information about the film. Here's a synopsis. We want to raise $1 million. We are willing to give up 10% of the revenue to investors who invest in our film, and we're also giving away an NFT, which will give you access to a film premiere. Awesome. The DAO come in, they vote on this proposal. If they accept the proposal into the DAO, the proposal gets moved into the financing sector of the DAO, where the investors come in and invest in the film. So we have a three-step process: proposal, vote, invest. And then if the studio is successful during the financing round and they hit exactly what they need to, so they hit the minimum required. We'll just say they're raising $1 million. The minimum required is $1 million. It can be 500,000, 200,000. We'll say it's $1 million. If they decided to raise in USDT, USDC, ETH, excuse me, that USDT, USDC, or ETH will be received by the studio. However, a percentage of the overall raise is taken out of the total raise and delivered back to the DAO and replenishes the financing pool. Then the film goes ahead and gets produced, and upon the production, the auditor will. So when the film's actually produced and it goes into the distribution, meaning it gets uploaded to the DAO and it gets sent out to the auditors that were selected. Whatever auditor is delivered to, it's their responsibility to provide reports on revenue generated by the film within the SVOD and deliver that report back to the DAO, which will allow the smart contract to distribute the revenue to the studio and also investors. If revenue sharing was it was elected as an incentive and it's set forth in the contract. So to encourage participation in the DAO voting, the investors will be eligible to receive rewards from the DAO treasury by performing voting actions on the studio's proposals. Distribution. Studios who are looking for distribution will follow a similar process as the financing round. However, there's no monetary value involved. And that's something I should have mentioned during the financing side. When a studio submits a proposal for film financing, they must pay a fee of $100 in ETH, USDT, USDC, or VAB token. And that is to stop the gamification of the platform. And if they wish to bypass the voting and go straight to financing, then they need to pay a $200 fee, so slightly more expensive. Again, that is to stop gamification of the platform. So going back to distribution, Distribution follows the exact same path, but there's no monetary value involved. If a film wants to be distributed via the auditors on the platform or associated with the DAO, they submit that proposal. The DAO come in, they vote on whether that film should be distributed. If it meets, certain rules, that it doesn't have, extreme violence, hate crimes, whatever it might be, that kind of, you draw a line under of what's ethical and what's not. When it's voted on, it passes through, it's distributed out to the auditors, and it's released for all the consumers around the world to watch. And the revenue that's generated on those auditing platforms come back into the DAO and is shared out accordingly as set forth in the smart contract. That is distribution. Um, so now I'm just going to go back and go through some figures of what people can expect. Um, in terms of staking and so on. So if we're looking at staking rewards, the way it works is there's a pool of 100 million VAB tokens. Um, each person who is staking will be awarded or eligible to earn 0.0004% of the rewards pool per day. So example, if the reward pool is 100 million, then 400 VAB will be rewarded per day or per block to all stakers who participated in the vote, participate in voting. That is important. You cannot just stake your VAB tokens and expect a reward. It is action based, meaning that if you stake your VAB tokens, you need to perform voting actions in order to receive your staking reward. If you do not, perform your actions as a body of the governance layer, you do not receive your reward. It's an incentivized reward pool. You might be able to stake it, but you still need to perform actions. And that is very important. Staker rewards are paid out every 30 days. And so the reward cycle is every 30 days. There's also bonus reward metrics. So stakers who voted correctly on proposals, meaning that a film is released into the auditor's platforms and it performs really well. It's like everybody that's watching it watches right to the end. It's getting hundreds and hundreds and thousands of views. Well, then that can be classified as a very good vote by a staker. They read through the proposal, they saw it was going to be a great film, and they passed it through and it got its financing. Well, then you're eligible to receive an extra 0.001% reward from the reward pool. However, that is not an instant reward. This is a reward you will receive over time as the performance of the film increases on the auditor's streaming services. If we come to the auditing service, there's no real rewards here for auditors. The auditors have to make up their own revenue on their end. It's nothing to do with the DAO. They do not take percentages of the DAO. They are just a delivery method of the content, of the pure curation of the DAO. They're just a window. That's all they are, a window to the DAO. There's no real rewards for them, as I said. So I actually won't get into that. It doesn't make much sense for anybody here. For governance and voting, all properties of the governance shall be changeable with a proposal. So, for instance, if I go back and say the reward, which is 0.0004%, if the DAO is not happy with that percentage of the pool being rewarded every day, they can go in and propose and have it changed if everybody agrees on that proposal. So it's important that every part of the DAO is changeable by proposal via the governance bodies of the DAO or the stakers. In order to change a proposal, more than 75 million stake VAB needs to be actioned on. So 75 million stake VAB needs to be there, and it needs to have voted on the proposals. Excuse me. And there will be three options during the voting process. There'll be yes, no, or abstain. Abstain meaning, if you don't know, just click abstain, and you did perform an action. You will still receive your reward, but you weren't sure whether the proposal should be passed or not. Again, going back to proposals, just like a studio, anybody that's creating a proposal even a staker proposal to change something in the DAO, there's a $100 fee, whether it be in VAB, USDT, USDC, or ETH, and if it's in a stable or ETH, it's converted back into VAB via the Uniswap router, so essentially a market purchase of VAB token and put back into the pool. In order for a proposal to pass, it needs to be greater or equal to or greater than 51% of the accepted vote. When it comes to voting from the staker side, it just needs to be that 51%. However, when it comes to the film, board, they carry a small bit of a different weight to stakers of the DAO. I'll give you an example. The film board's max voting power is 30%. So, for instance, if only half of the film board vote, that only equates to 15%, leaving a remainder of 85% to be made up by the community. The important point here is, even though the film board are experienced, and people will be looking at their votes to go, oh, this is quite a good film to vote on, then, um, then, we want to make sure that they cannot manipulate the voting based on their experience, in a sense that they can't group together and push a film through or push a proposal through. The max film board weight is 30%. The rest of that percentage needs to be made up by the community vote. So when I say 15%, only half of the film board voted. The 85% still needs to be made up by the community at large. So that's kind of the film board. That's the staking rewards. When it comes to the production launchpad itself, and films are getting financed, right now the parameters or the minimum maximum investment allotment is $50 up to $5,000. Again, that can be in VAB, USDT, USDC, or ETH. There's a 2% fee applied to all campaigns, which go back into the reward pool. I mentioned that earlier, but that is the figure as of today. It's 2%. So if someone's raising, whatever amount of money, and the studio receives that amount of money, 2% of that money will be sent back to the DAO rewards pool as a means to replenish the pool. I don't want to touch too much on NFTs themselves, but a studio may utilize Vabble NFT Marketplace to raise funds through selling NFTs, NFT collections. But they're the platform itself is going to be very tailored to films and very video based, I'd imagine, as we go along. But more information on that later. There's also a very interesting part of the marketplace is that when a collection is minted and it's initially sold, all of those initial sales have a 2% fee. And that 2% fee is put back into the rewards pool for the DAO. It's not going anywhere else. Any other sales after the initial, there's no fees. Just the initial sale, when it goes from studio to a consumer or a user of the DAO, there's a 2% fee. And that 2% fee comes from the studio. It doesn't come from the user. And that 2% fee is back in to replenish the DAO rewards pool. So kind of as a conclusion and to wrap this up, the Vabble ecosystem was conceived to help creators, investors, and consumers effortlessly build communities around quality content. And with this decentralized approach to the film industry, allows creators and studios to utilize their IP to its fullest extent. And that's important because they're retaining that IP. So, and then we also see that, we provide investors and consumers with the opportunity to receive rewards and exclusive experiences. And all that will come via coordination between the DAO and its auditors. So the Vabble's DAO auditing and governance protocols deliver a scalable solution to an already changing Hollywood system. And looking forward, the Vabble ecosystem can reach far beyond just the film industry It can become an economic hub for media and entertainment media and entertainment technology. There's a lot of plans for the future of what will hold for Vabble DAO and for the Vabble auditor or the streaming service. There's a lot of to talk about, AR technology and so much more, going into different types of media like print media and so on. But for the foreseeable future, we're concentrating on building an ecosystem that can sustain the Hollywood sustain Hollywood at large, onboard them into blockchain in the most frictionless way possible, while also opening the doors to cryptocurrency and in real life utility to millions upon millions people around the globe. And thank you for listening to today's episode of Vabble's Town Hall. This is episode 4, and we'll be meeting for our town hall again in our Discord on the 3rd of October. In terms of date of the beta, we hope to have a date for the beta release in the next week or two. But thank you for listening and have a good day.